Hello, this is Kanjan, and today we are going to be ranking every Harry Potter book in the main series. I'm not messing with Cursed Child. It's the lowest one anyway. We'll just leave that where it is. Um, this is my just personal opinion list. I'm not trying to make any objective statements here. Everyone's going to have their own ranking and have different things that are important to them. So, not trying to, you know, give you this is how everyone should think about this. Um, I really feel like the series is so good that I know I've seen there's people who have my lowest book on here. People have it as their top book. It's that versatile. In fact, my wife has the lowest one I have on here is my wife's favorite book, and I know that. So she was a little unhappy with my ranking. That's okay. We all are going to have differing opinions on this. This is just mine. Some people's ranking of this series, I feel like, changes over time, or it can be influenced by which book they happen to be rereading at that time. There is a high reread value for Harry Potter. I feel like, especially when you know all the twists, you read the books differently, going back through again and again. My ranking, it can change like that, but there's definite tiers for me that I don't really move. And so I'm just going to kind of give you my layout of how my ranking is organized, I guess, in my mind before we go through all of the books at least. I've got kind of this S tier, my top two. Nothing can touch them. I've flipped them back and forth a little bit, but my top one really hasn't changed for years now. I think those are kind of set in stone for me. I have an A tier underneath that. That's kind of number 3 and number 4. Those flip-flop often. I feel like I keep going back and forth between which one I like just a little bit better. And so it's a little less set in stone. But it's definitely, there's a gap there between the S tier, A tier. I feel like it's a pretty sizable gap for me, actually. A smaller gap down to tier B, though. And that's just 5 and 6. The rankings 5 and 6, not books 5 and 6. And those two are also very similar and can flip-flop as well. So there's, I feel like I don't really have things that cross the tier line, but between the books that are in the tiers, they can move around a little bit. And then I would put the bottom book for me on its own tier. I would put it at tier, like say a tier C. I'm not going to have like a D or an F or anything. Because ultimately, none of these books are bad. And again, that just speaks to how great this series is as a whole. Having people who rank books in different places just speaks to that. Now, here's the criteria for things that are important to me, and therefore how I'm going to be ranking these. First of all, I need like core memory moments that stick in my head canon as just, these are legendary. These are the moments that I go back to. This is what sticks in my brain. Though I feel like without those, every book has at least 1 or 2 of those for sure, but some have more than others, and so those will be ranked higher. Every book in true J.K. Rowling style has its twists and turns. How twisty is that turn is what I want to look for. If the twist is a little more crazy, then that's good for me. I don't want to see it coming. I want to be left in awe for sure. Now, as far as the story of the book goes, does it move the plot of the series forward substantially? I feel like each book plays its own role. Some of them are a little less vital to the overall story than others. And that's important to me. Likewise, does the story make sense? Does it fit well with the rest of the series? So kind of in that same vein, I want to know, I feel like those two kind of go together. If it moves the plot forward, then that's a positive for me. But also, does it feel like a part of the whole when you're done with it and you're kind of looking at this kind of 30,000-foot view of the series? Does it mesh well with the rest of it? And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to like have the same vibe or have the same sequence of events happening. A lot of the books have kind of similarities between, like, this is how the story goes. Harry's at home, and then he's at Hogwarts, and then conflict happens, and then things get resolved, and then Gryffindor wins the House Cup. like there's some storylines that are similar. It's not necessarily what I mean by that. I just mean when we look at the overall view of it, does it fit well, or does it stand out as like this story got really in the weeds? And I think there's a couple of those that drop the ranking for me. And then lastly, is it a satisfying read? For me personally, do I want to read this again? Really? Because there's some books that I go back to more than others, for sure. And I feel like that's important to how it's ranking in my mind. So that's where I'm going. I'm going to start, instead of going from the bottom, I feel like Harry Potter is so hard to figure out what's the worst one. The best ones are easy for me. The harder part of this for me was, what do I put on the bottom? How in the world do I pick that? Not even just the bottom, but like the ones that are almost at the bottom. Like, how do I say that this book is like second worst or third worst? I don't know. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. And so that way the anticipation for the end of the video here is just what's at the bottom there. Where are you ranking this? And there is a bit, in true Rowling fashion here, bit of foreshadowing with the top of my list, looking to the bottom of my list. They are a little interconnected here. So if you might be able to tell a little bit from how I'm talking about these first ones to, you might be able to tell where I'm going with it. But we'll see. Something to look forward to. Something has to be the worst book, even if none of them truly deserve it. So we'll get there. Starting with number 1, I have Half-Blood Prince. This book is a masterpiece in misdirection. It begins and ends with Snape, and it has this blossoming bond between Harry and Dumbledore in the middle of it all. No book gives more plot or backstory, I would argue. I think you could say maybe Sorcerer's Philosopher's Stone, just given that there's so much world building in it, contributes more maybe. Or you could maybe say Deathly Hallows, bringing it all together. But I feel like the backstory there, the amount of backstory we get on Voldemort's life, and the the amount of time Harry and Dumbledore spend together really, really brings a lot of light to some areas that we just hadn't gotten before, and all of it is just like candy to me. One of the best chapters in the series is the conversation between Harry and Dumbledore at the end of Order of the Phoenix. And I feel like Half-Blood Prince is that chapter on steroids, on repeat. It's just over and over again I'm being fed like I just want Harry and Dumbledore to like interact, just period. That's like the best. Let's just keep doing that. Like the conversation that they have in the Deathly Hallows after Harry like quote unquote dies. I like wanted that to keep going. I'm like, can we just have a few chapters on this instead of the one? So I really, really like that. The unfolding stories of Malfoy and Voldemort in Half-Blood Prince and really and Snape as well, even though we don't, you're getting a lot of backstory on Snape without realizing it, which is what I love about this book. It all of these unfolding stories here provide us with deeper perspectives. We learn more about Harry's mom even. Like there's some really good stuff in here. Side note on I'll talk a little bit about the movies here, but and I may rank them even at the end too, but we'll get there. The Felix Felicis scene in the movie, best acting I've seen Daniel Radcliffe do in any movie. So but that whole situation and the backstory you get with Slughorn and Harry's mom and Voldemort and all of that is just chef's kiss. Love it. This book gives us everything, and then it rips it away in the cruelest manner. We finally have hope and a direction. We have an idea of where this big story is headed. I feel like the whole series we were kind of like baited and wondering like, where is this going? Like, how is this all going to play out? What's the end game here? We get a glimpse of the end game. Okay, we need to hunt these Horcruxes. Here's the first one. We've got this. And then you got Dumbledore dying and the Horcrux is fake, and you're just like, oh, we finally got down to it plot wise. But by the end we're lost. Just completely lost. Like, what are we supposed to do now? The beginning of this book tells us what's about to happen in a way that's unique to any of the previous book. It takes the focus off of Harry for like 2 whole chapters at the beginning and gives us this foreboding sense of foreshadowing that I feel like you almost forget about until it comes back to bite us. Like, I don't know about you, but when Malfoy's got Dumbledore and he's trying to decide what to do, and then Snape shows up, I totally forgot about the second chapter of this book. Like, the unbreakable vow was not on my mind at all. It probably should have been, because that's specifically what it was for. It was, you're going to finish the job that Malfoy can't do. It was not. I was like, oh no. They did such a good job of foreshadowing that, and then Snape kind of dropped off the map for the rest of the book. Like, it was not really about Snape, even though it was, and you didn't know it. Harry spends all book being right about Malfoy, which is crazy because he's never right about Malfoy. Despite, he's never gotten a main plot point right before, really. Like, he's been close. He's been like, the big twist at the end confirms that both, that Harry was right and yet Dumbledore was wrong at the same time, which is just uncharted waters for us. Normally it's flipped. Normally Dumbledore's on it, with maybe the exception of Order of the Phoenix. But normally Harry's just off. Just completely. He's just off base. He thinks it's this person. He thinks Snape is going after the stone. Normally it's one of Snape or Malfoy that he's after. And it's just never that. And in this case, that's exactly who it is. It's Snape and Malfoy. That's exactly what's going on. So it's such a expectation subversion, I guess, that it makes that twist so much more of a gut punch of Snape killing Dumbledore. There's a lot of things in other books that I really like, but this is the ranked the highest because I like this the best. I just that it differs from other books in a lot of ways, and yet it's so similar in its how it plays out, as far as like Harry thinking he knows what he's doing and he just doesn't know what he's doing, but he's getting better at it because he's got Dumbledore there, and they're building this. They're building on their relationship. They're sharing information. Well, mainly Dumbledore sharing information. Harry's speculating about it, and they're working together at it. It almost brings a sense of safety there, of like, oh, maybe Harry is on this. Like, maybe Harry is right about this, especially given the unbreakable vow. We got that at the beginning. And so there's just this sense of safety during this book, and we are not safe. We are not prepared for what is coming. Just a lot of play on our expectations. 6 books into the series. There's a lot of other stuff in here. There's the teenage romances. You've got Harry, Ginny coming together. Even the Ron and Lavender thing. They almost seem like distracting. But by the end, I feel like they work to develop the plot even further. Ron and Lavender and how that went really solidified the trio by the end of it, I feel like. So that we could have the trio acting as they did for the Deathly Hallows. And Harry Ginny's relationship did that as well, in a different way almost. Like Ron had to get his first relationship out of the way in order to focus on Hermione. And Harry had to not get Ginny out of the way necessarily, but had to choose what his priorities were going to be. And by the end, everyone's priority is, within the trio, everyone's priority is the task ahead. And doing the task ahead together. Even though Harry wants to do it alone, by the end of it, they're like, no, we're not. We're not doing that. And moving into the Deathly Hallows, they make very clear we are coming on this, whether you want to or not. So they're important to the story. As much as I hate saying that Lavender Brown is important to the story, she's important to where this is headed, for sure. And then the action is just undeniable. The chapter with the cave is just legendary. It gives us another glimpse of Dumbledore's true power, which we got a good taste of at the end of Order of the Phoenix as well. And by the end, we're kind of left wanting because he's gone, but satisfaction, like high satisfaction value in reading Half-Blood Prince for me, because of all of this. We get a lot of stuff we've been wanting the whole time. But by the end, we're left undone. The task ahead couldn't be clearer, but the path forward seems impossible. Dumbledore's death, combined with Snape's reveal as the Half-Blood Prince, that's the ultimate 1-2 gut punch. Just like, just two of them, and now I'm out of breath. Harry's he's been defending the prince all year, and trying so hard to get his friends off his back about the prince, and really viewing him almost as a mentor in a sense, is how he was. It's crazy. Like, reading through that potions book is like the first time Harry's like been like actually wanting to like learn stuff like that. He's studying a textbook all year, which is crazy. And yet it's the person he hates the most, and by the end of it, almost feels like the ultimate enemy, even over Voldemort. Like, which is like, imagine hating somebody more than you hate your parents' murderers. But like, that's the level that he was at. And like, technically he saw his parents be murdered as well, but this feels different. Having Harry defending the prince all year, and then he, by the end of it, finds out that the prince is not responsible for the death of his mentor that he spent all year growing close to. Just a gut-wrenching ending after this feeling of safety. S tier, top book. Can't beat it. In my mind, can't beat it. All right, number 2 is The Deathly Hallows. So these are my 2 top tier. After reading the series for the first time, thought that Deathly Hallows is and forever will be my favorite book. I feel like Half-Blood Prince gets you once you reread it again, and you're like, oh, you don't have that, is not the same. For reading through Half-Blood Prince the first time, you never get that back again. Deathly Hallows, though, I will say this: The Prince's Tale is the best chapter in the series, and I go back sometimes just to read that on its own. It's full of some of the best twists in fiction. It is the climax of the series before the climax of the book in the Great Hall, if you understand what I mean there. Like, it's I feel like a bigger moment of backstory and plot twists than even Voldemort's death, to me. I think Deathly Hallows gets a lot of hate because of the camping chapters, but it's not. It's done such a great disservice by the movies splitting into 2 parts, I think. Because part 2 deserved its own movie. What took place during part 2? I mean, you start part 2 at like epic moment, and then it just epic moments just keep happening. The whole movie is epic. Part 1 didn't need its own movie. It really needed the end part to make it epic. And so they clearly, I mean, in some ways I'm glad they split it, because then you get part 2, but in other ways, like, just make a 4-hour movie. I'm fine with that. But the book includes both parts. And really, there's like 5 camping chapters in total. That's it. Out of 36 chapters? It's a small part of the book, but it's not a significant portion of the book as it feels in the movies. And it's not bad. The camping scenes aren't bad. They're awkward. They're hard to read because it's so cringy, because a lot of the focus is on this like teenage angst of relationships. And yeah, so I feel like it's more cringy in the movies than it is in the books even. What really makes the Deathly Hallows are the moments, the headcanon moments that when you think of like epic things happening in this series, a chunk of them are in this book. The killing of each Horcrux would be the climax of any other book, and they are in some of them. Like the diary, is the climax of Chamber of Secrets. We got 5 of them in this one book. And none of them are the climax of the book. It's just it's become the plot now. Which is crazy. There's too many incredible moments for it to be ranked any lower. It's unlike any other book in the series, of course, with the focus not being on Hogwarts the whole time, but then you almost get this sense of familiarity when they do come back to Hogwarts. But it's not the same, of course, and everything's falling apart. So it's different, but it's so different that it's good. The relationship building with Aberforth, that we get, and kind of that additional backstory on Dumbledore, it does feel like not as smooth as we got, like when we got backstory on Snape and on Voldemort and Half-Blood Prince. But that's because he's gone. But I find that's kind of how this works in reality as well. You often don't find out a lot about people until after they're gone. That happens. And so that fits well with me, even though it feels really uncomfortable, because the people we're close to aren't perfect. Our mentors aren't perfect. Our role models and people that we look up to make mistakes. And you're going to find out about those things eventually. So I think some people hold that against this book. I do not. I feel like it fits really well with how those kinds of relationships work in the real world. And it's written beautifully. Where Deathly Hallows, where it like lacks in the familiarity of the story and the plot points, and where it lacks in just joy. There's just a lack of joy in this book often. You kind of have to pull it out of the moments where they defeat each Horcrux almost. Where it lacks there, it makes up for in story and in action, ultimately. So movie is really good as far as part 2 goes as well. But the book as a whole, combined together as one, it's right up there, and I would never rank it any lower than 2, for sure. Top tier, S tier. Moving down to my A tier with number 3, and again, I go back and forth between this and 4, but this is where I'm at the moment. I've got Goblet of Fire here at number 3. This is another top plot twist it's less insane than others. I feel like it has a few more hints pointing that direction. Not that we would ever really think that, like, but I could see someone's train of thought being like, what is Moody drinking all the time? It seems sus, and I could see people, I don't know that I could see people getting to Polyjuice Potion and that he's an entirely different person, let alone who he is, because that's just not been a thing that we've talked about before, really, before this book. But once we find out what Buttercrouch Jr.'s, been doing all along, I feel like we can look back at all the signs and see that they were there. Some of the twists in this series, where was the sign that Snape loved Lily. Like, like no one would have thought that. I feel like realistically, like your sign is that he has her eyes, and they say that a bunch. Like, okay, I don't know that this one's a little less twisty because of that, but it's still crazy. It's still crazy that Barty Crouch Jr. pulled all of that off in the first place. That's the crazy part. The plot building is there, but it's more in the shadows. So something like Prisoner of Azkaban, for example, it builds the plot in the light. We kind of see each step as it happens. There's the twist at the end, of course, and so there's things that are playing out, but they're more leading to the climax of the book instead of like building on the bigger plot of the story. I feel like Goblet of Fire feels like it's not going anywhere or doing anything until you realize it's going there and was all along. Like this, the idea that we're just having this fun little tournament at school this year, and that now Voldemort's back at the end of the book. Like, it builds towards the greater story more than any book does in the middle of the series or the beginning of the series. Like, it does more towards changing the trajectory of the series itself than a lot of other books do. But it does so without you realizing it until, oh, now we know what was going on. Okay. There's details on things that seem inconspicuous at first, but they're central to the plot. Like the events at the World Cup, or how Harry gets information about tests in the tournament. Like, all of these point to this big twist of what Barty Crouch Jr. has been doing in the shadows behind the scenes. But it just seems, unimportant in some ways. Like, they're cool. World Cup was cool. The Triwizard Tournament was cool. Getting to know these other schools, and the people in them. Like, all of that had a very, like, there was a lot that we were learning about the greater magical world aside from just Hogwarts and Harry's experience in it. So there's a lot of, like, additional world building happening in Goblet of Fire. And yet all of this is just, like, we thought we were just building the world, and, like, there were stakes for sure. Like, Harry's life was at stake. But we didn't know how much Harry's life was at stake. Like, we thought he might just die to a dragon. No, you might die in a graveyard to Voldemort. Like, these are not the same thing. So ironically, it's the most regular school year that Harry has in almost any book in the series. Like, maybe the first two beat it, but it's crazy. Like, the tournament's going on all year. For sure, but there's lots of, like, regular school and teenager plot stuff in this book with, like, the Yule Ball, and, like, there's just so much focus on things that are regular school things, regular teenager things, and more so than other books, where the subject matter is really, really serious. And so it reminds me almost of like how the Sorcerer's Stone is in that way, because the big twist at the end of Sorcerer's Stone reveals kind of like, oh, this is what this was about that we were doing all year. Got it. Like, no one knew what we were doing with it, really, except for, like, one person. Like, Quirrell knew what was happening the whole year. And I think maybe Dumbledore had an idea of what was going on, but maybe, I don't I don't know that Dumbledore knew what was behind the turban, but he knew something was up for sure. Those two books remind me they're very similar to each other in that vein, I think, because the plot happens in the dark and you think it's going one direction, but it's not really, that's not really where it's going. Like, but it's more pronounced here because like I would equate like the Triwizard Tournament Cup to the Sorcerer's Stone in a way. But the stone was more vital to Voldemort's actual plan than the cup was. The cup was just a port key. The stone was like the way he was getting back. The cup was just a way for him to get Harry to him in order for him to get back in the way that he wanted. So the crazy part is he didn't even need Harry. Like, he didn't need his blood and it would have been better without it. But, you know, whatever. I think that dynamic is such a important way to tell the story. We do have, you know, we've got some things that are like problematic to me a little bit. I feel like they made a big deal about the death of Cedric, but I feel like that's so underscored to me by just lack of familiarity. Like, they spent so much of the book trying to get us to, like, really focus on Cedric in a way, so, like, that we could feel closer to him when he died, maybe. I don't know. But it doesn't, Cedric's death doesn't really do anything for me. I'm sorry, Cedric. We just barely knew you. Like if like Neville died or something, like then I might care more. But like, I just found out about you in this book. Like I'm good. But you know, it does that whole dynamic like of a student dying. Like, that was like, you know, that was like what the big deal was for Chamber of Secrets. So like, someone's gonna die. Like, we have to close the school because someone's gonna die from this monster. And last time the Chamber of Secrets opened, someone did die, and so that's what their big worry is. And here, like, so you can't underscore too much. Like, someone did die. Like, a student died during a school year at Hogwarts. Like, so that is crazy. And it plunges us straight into the darkest books of the series. I mean, it keeps getting darker and darker, to be fair, but this is like the beginning of the really dark stuff happening, more so than anything else. But Goblet of Fire, ranked 3rd on my list. Ranked 4th, right behind it, and again, I can go back and forth here, but Prisoner of Azkaban is number 4 to me. Mostly because, for me, the plot twist of Prisoner is top 5, maybe 3 in the series. Which is like saying something, because there's a lot of really crazy twists in this series. There's no possible way to see it coming. I'm sorry. For all the, like, amount of time they spent on like Crookshanks chasing Scabbers and all of that, like that, no one thinks what if this pet is actually a man who's like responsible for Harry's parents' death. Like, you can't even get to the man part, let alone that. Like, you're just learning about the Marauders in this book. And, like, one of them has been with Ron all along. Like, no one's getting there. That's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry. Like, you could maybe get to, like, in Goblet of Fire, you could get to. I feel like you could get to at least that Moody isn't who he says he is, maybe. Or maybe you could get to, I think what's in that drink is Polyjuice Potion. I could see somebody reading the story thought that. Like, there's too many of us that read this thing for no one to have not thought that. Nobody ever, first time reading this, without any hints or any, like, someone telling them or them hearing about something, nobody going in blind saw this plot twist coming. You just didn't. I'm sorry, you didn't. So it's like, for me, just on that, it's close to like the S tier just from that. Which is, but like, it's crazy that it goes back and forth. I'll tell you why in a moment. That we're down at number 4 for Prisoner with this plot twist. That's crazy. There is lots of plot building. The learning about the Marauders, seeing the map, Harry learning things about his dad's history here. And Harry and the rest of the trio deepen their understanding of the danger that Harry is in. There's this sense of danger this whole book because Sirius has escaped. And they're worried so much that he's coming after Harry specifically. And so it really ups the ante of like Harry's main character energy from the other books. Like, Harry was the main character in the other books up to this point in the first 2. But he kind of, it almost felt like he like happened into the main plot of the story. Like, he was kind of a spectator to it until he all of a sudden wasn't. And here from the beginning of the book, he's in the center of it. I think it's a really good mix of this kind of coming into darkness that we have in the later books with the lightness of the first couple. So you've got a lot of like fun things that are happening in this book for sure. Still in this book, there's a lot of just magic that feels like magic to the reader in the first couple books, and this book still has some of that left over, but we're getting into, I mean, you still have that in every book in some sense. They have to keep introducing more and more world building into it for you to feel that. This is the turning point a little bit where the darkness is there a bit more. And it comes into full-fledged at the end of Goblet, but just a good balance there in this book, I feel like. I have this ranked a little lower because I'm not the biggest fan of the time travel. It's the main way the plot of the series can be broken. I do ascribe to the fact of, like, y'all could have just used like, if you're gonna have a time turner, like, I get, like, I can't say that I get it. Dumbledore, you got the time turner, why are you using it? And, like, why is it more important to give it to Hermione to, like, get to all of her classes versus using it to, like, avoid all this hubbub you got going on? Like, there's people that have this, like, the theory of, like, Dumbledore's got this big plan the whole time. And, like, some of the books, his plan is just like, I want to teach Harry this one lesson. Like, why all this craziness and suffering and planning if you can just, like, go back and change it? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, the introduction of time travel in this book and then not using it ever again, or not using it before this, really, is just not a good feeling for me. So, like, this is kind of what I mean as far as, like, fitting in with the rest of the series. To me, one of the major plot points in this book kind of breaks the series in a way that I don't like. And so I feel like I have to rank a little lower. Even though it's still A tier, that plot twist is crazy. Um, it's balanced out. The craziness of the plot twist is balanced out with the cringiness of the time travel. To me, it just doesn't fit in the rest of the series. I'm sorry, you would have used it in other situations besides this one. You just would have. Like, I don't buy it that you wouldn't. So Prisoners kind of more in the middle for me then. In fact, exactly in the middle at number 4. Number 5 begins my B tier. So this is where we get into hard stuff because you're like, I mean, you know the books I've got left, right? So all of them are B or C tier, which just is icky. It's icky. I don't like it. I don't like that they have to be down here, but something's got to be down here. So number 5, I've got Chamber of Secrets. Now, you've got some core memory stuff in this, of course. Moment we learn the identity of Tom Riddle, boom, core memory. It's an epic chapter all around, but that reveal is just, it's legendary. It's so fantastic in the movies as well. The mystery of this book, it feels like a Scooby-Doo episode or something. Like, the trio are like little investigators spending large swaths of the book putting great effort in to get tiny pieces of information that barely help. Like, the amount of time and effort they put into getting Polyjuice Potion just to talk to Malfoy, to get no information from him at all, really, that actually helped, and that they just readily learn about later as well, like, is crazy, but also kind of like, yeah, this is how little kids would deal with this, like, because that's what they are. They're like, they're not even teenagers yet at this point. They're 12. So, like, yeah, this is how a 12-year-old would go about trying to solve a murder mystery, essentially. Like, they would spend a lot of time doing basically nothing. Harry not going to Dumbledore is just incredibly frustrating. I understand why he didn't. I get that. But it prolongs the main conflict far past how long it should have went on. The crazy thing to me, there's this dichotomy to me of Harry spends all year long avoiding telling him that he was hearing voices in the walls. Okay? At the same time, he shows loyalty to Dumbledore in the Chamber of Secrets in such a way that it calls Fawkes to him. Like, what? Like, I guess that's like, that's kind of in line with reality. Like, that's kind of how it goes in real life as well, I suppose. Of how we revere some people, but can't, like, bring ourselves to just, like, talk to them, like, actually. So I guess that makes sense, but it just drives me nuts. Like, just talk to him. Like, come on, man. It's very, like I said, very similar to Goblet of Fire, and that the plot moves the story along in secret in a lot of ways. Because we don't know who Tom Riddle is, we don't fully understand all that we've learned about him until later. So it's got that same kind of energy of like, oh, we're learning things, but we don't know that we're learning things. Like, there's so much backstory here on Voldemort, and then we have to, like, you got to go back and read it later of like, oh, this is who Voldemort is. Got it. So that, combined with the big twist at the end, keeps it higher than the bottom of my list, but I just can't, the nostalgia factor for me is not enough to push it beyond number 5 for me. Now, number 6, similar place, and these two flip-flop again. They're in the B tier together. They flip-flop for me a little bit. This is where they are right now. Number 6, Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, for the Brits. Obviously, a ton of world building had to go into this book. And that both helps it and hurts it. As the shortest book, spending so much time building the Wizarding World takes away from much of the rest of the plot, where other books, they can take their time plotting along, but, it's still, this is the OG story, right? So it's still when we first experience this magical story, you're a wizard, Harry, is stuck in all of our brains forever. So there's that. The twist at this end is a good introduction twist to the big ones yet to come in the series. It's good in that it's good in its misdirection, and the absurdness is kind of on par with the later twists on the actual details. Again, I really don't think anyone's gonna guess, yeah, I bet Voldemort himself is under that turban. I don't even think Dumbledore speculated on that at all. And I don't think we as readers would have really. Maybe some people, thought, I bet something's up with Quirrell. But you gotta think, especially since it's the first book, I just assumed turbans were a wizard thing that some people wore. They're still building this world. And so I don't think that that we would have definitely known, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And we really hadn't, because it's first book too, we hadn't experienced the J.K. Rowling twist yet. So you don't know where, if that's what is going to happen. Is there going to be this big twist at the end? I feel like in a lot of good stories there are, but you don't know. This is the first one. So how would we know? How would we know that Harry thinking, that Snape is behind all of this? You as the reader, I feel like, going through the first time, experiencing this, yeah, that's kind of where our minds went. Especially, it's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So, he's the main character. We're gonna think that he knows what he's doing in some ways, even though he's 11. The end also gives us this first dose of seriousness, which will become far more prevalent, but they went from 0 to 100 real quick there, going from someone, probably Snape, is sneaking into this restricted area of the school to steal a magical object that we figure out later, to, we go from there to my parents' murderer is now talking directly to me and ordering an adult to kill me. That happened very fast. The one thing that's bothered me a little bit always about Sorcerer's Stone is just the timing of it. I get that some of it may just be this is how it had to happen. But as far as we're taking this 30,000 foot view of it, right? So was it coincidence that Quirrell went to teach at Hogwarts with Voldemort on his head the same year Harry happened to start at Hogwarts? He was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, so he wasn't there the year before that we know of. Maybe he was a different teacher. There's probably information on Pottermore about that. I'm not sure. But it would have been better for Voldemort to do this before Harry was there. And he had ample time. He had a decade to accomplish that. So maybe it just happened to all line up that the stone was being stored there and Quirrell was off of the job at the right time. It's just a little sus to me and a little too much coincidence for me to feel good about it. Like I said, the satisfaction by the end of it is important to me, and kind of in the same way that the time travel just irks me a little bit with Prisoner, this kind of feels iffy to me with Sorcerer's Stone. Now, last book for me. You know it now. Number 7, C tiered on its own for me, is Order of the Phoenix. Now, I'll say, it is still a good book, but it can be incredibly frustrating to read. Oh, I understand the irony in my favorite book featuring a lot of cringe Lavender Brown moments, and my least favorite, being Solo, due mainly to this frustration that I feel. But it's just, there's too many. It's like watching like a cringy episode of The Office or something. Like, just too much for me to handle. And I will say, it's not just Umbridge, but like also Umbridge. Like, her on her own might be enough to put this at number 7 for me. The plot is just, it's super frustrating as a reader. Voldemort gets back and immediately begins playing Harry like a puppet. Like, not necessarily on purpose, but Harry spent other books being on the right trail of the main conflict, but just like misses on who the villain is. Like, I feel like they're on the right track in like Sorcerer's Stone, or Chamber of Secrets. He just doesn't understand that it's Quirrell instead of Snape, or he doesn't really, like, they spend so long trying to figure out what the monster is that he's not focused on, he's so focused on catching the basilisk, because that's what's like petrifying people. But he like totally misses Tom Riddle. And this one, Harry's just wrong. He has no idea what he's doing at all. And he runs straight into a trap, even though he's been told he's running into a trap. Does it anyway, doesn't care, and like gets his godfather killed in the middle of it. And if that wasn't enough, Dumbledore is just absent. Too many times, relief is just dangled in front of us, and Dumbledore runs the opposite direction instead, which I get at the end. He explains his reasoning, but it makes for such a frustrating read for me personally. And this dynamic, it just directly relates to why Half-Blood Prince is my favorite. All of the pent-up frustration comes out at the very end of Order of the Phoenix in Dumbledore's office, and that relationship blossoms in Half-Blood Prince. So Half-Blood Prince is everything that I wanted Order of the Phoenix to be. It happens at Half-Blood Prince. I get it all there instead. And so, for that reason, I'm sounding like I'm on like Shark Tank now, but like, for that reason I'm out. Order of the Phoenix it drops to the very bottom for me. It's a good story. I do feel like the plot, it doesn't do a lot of movement for the overall story. Like, I understand the importance of the prophecy, but like, if Harry wanted to, like, I mean, I guess he like heard some parts of the prophecy and gave Dumbledore a little bit more information that I feel like Dumbledore would have figured out anyway. Like, I think at this point Dumbledore already knew that Harry was a Horcrux, right? Like, you already knew that. That's the important part, really. Voldemort doesn't get any more information than he already had, and he had already pegged Harry as the person anyway. Like, he can go back to Neville now, I feel like. So, I don't know what it really did. Like, maybe someone will have to explain that to me. Like, what made the prophecy so important. But I felt like the gears were already in motion regardless of what the prophecy said. And it doesn't seem like it offered anything of that much more value to Harry. Maybe just in his understanding of his role in this. But, like, just talk to Dumbledore and he can explain to you your role in this. I don't know. I don't like it as much as others. So, C tier on its own at the bottom for me. So that's my list. I'm not like I said, not messing with Cursed Child. It's not canon / headcanon. If I did, it's easily number 8. F tier. Sorry. But so I've got Half-Blood Prince at 1, Deathly Hallows 2, Goblet of Fire 3, Prisoner of Azkaban 4, Chamber of Secrets 5, Sorcerer's Stone 6, Order of the Phoenix 7. Now, without further explanation, I'll rank the movies, which outside of the top spot tend to move around a little bit more for me. The rest of these are kind of like, but just to give you an idea, for movies specifically, I have number 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2, number 2, Prisoner of Azkaban, number 3, Half-Blood Prince, number 4, Order of the Phoenix. Sorry, it bumps up. Number 5, Sorcerer's Stone, number 6, Chamber of Secrets. I've got those flopped. Number 7, Deathly Hallows Part 1, and number 8, Goblet of Fire. Goblet movie, so much injustice there. So those are my rankings overall, books and movies. Hope you enjoyed listening to my thoughts here. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you've got your ranking, comment them down below. On your screen right now is a quick preview of my next video. If you liked this one, tell YouTube you liked it. Like it for me. If you didn't like this, subscribe so you can see more of other things. Last video, I did a Sporkle geography quiz. And this one I did Harry Potter rankings. So next time, something completely different from both of those things. So subscribe for the next one to see something different. And thank you for watching.